Also tonight, COCOBOD justifies decision to celebrate National Chocolate Week despite inability to clear outstanding debt to license buying companies. And about 70% of buildings constructed without the input of architects or building technologists. We hear from the Vice President of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Foster Sayakono, on this worrying finding. Thanks for being with us. We've got details right after this break. Welcome back to the program. Banks have been tipped to increase lending to households and businesses this year following pickup in economic activities. According to Databank research, the financial intermediaries will ease their conservative position to loan book this year, despite COVID-19 still lingering. Here's more.
The COVID-19 pandemic compelled banks to review their loan policies last year in order to contain the risk that the virus imposed on the economy. With the global economy recovering following rollout of vaccines, the banks will be motivated to increase loans to the private sector, which is the engine of growth. According to the Bank of Ghana, loans to the private sector weakened throughout last year. Indeed, credit to the private sector slowed to 5.8% in December 2020, compared with 23.8% the same period last year. Databank research said it believes banks will begin to ease their conservative stance to loan book expansion as economic activities pick up. As such, initiatives such as the Coronavirus Alleviation Program instituted by the government to extend loans to micro, small and medium enterprises as well as large businesses should support the sector's loan book growth. As a result, earnings growth for the banking sector will be stronger this year as the banks take advantage of the strong demand for loans to boost interest income. This will also drive their stock prices. Banks recorded profit before tax of about 6.1 billion cedis last year.
While meantime, rates of Treasury securities have fallen as government recorded 96% oversubscription of its latest Treasury bill sale. That's according to figures from the Bank of Ghana. Charles Nixon-Yabua has some more perspective.
For the fifth consecutive period, government Treasury bill sales has been oversubscribed. But this time around, oversubscription was quite huge by about 96%. So if you look at the investor interest there, it was quite significant. For example, the 91-day Treasury bill attracted tendering of about 1.5 billion cedis. On a whole, government secured almost 1.7 billion cedis from bids, but accepted 1.90 billion cedis. This shows that clearly the economy has more interest as far as the investment environment is concerned. More importantly, we had rates falling marginally, but that comes as a good omen because then the banks will move away from investing heavily in Treasury bill and also giving out loans to personal and business clients, and that is something that we want to see because that stimulates spending in the economy. So if you look at the statistics or the data, the 91-day Treasury bill was hugely oversubscribed by investors comparatively to the 6-month bill or 182-day bill. That also had some level of attraction, but that was not up to the levels of the 91-day Treasury bill. But we are very, very mindful and very concerned about the rates that fell, and that is good because then it will trigger to reduction in lending rates going forward. Even if you get 1% reduction on your cost of loans, that is good because if you compute it, it comes with some level of cost. So we are happy in the sense that as interest rates on government securities fall, lending rate will also fall, and businesses and personal or individual consumers will have some level of attention from the banks to borrow and also finance their personal and business transactions.
Now, this year is very concerning. About 70% of buildings are constructed without the input of architects or building technologists. That's according to the Vice President of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Foster Sayakono. He emphasized that some buildings are structured without considering the health and safety of occupants. Here's his interview with Mildred Dodu.
I think things are done let's say about 70% of the developments are not controlled. 70% of the buildings, I should say, when there was disaster, let's say there was fire, for instance, it will become very difficult to evacuate the buildings, the people from that building. Even when they have been evacuated, where do they assemble and count it? Okay, typical is this building. I'm sure when you were coming here, you struggled for parking.
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of things in terms of health and safety of the occupants are not being considered. And it is because professionals, more often than not, are not used. And where they are even used, because of what the clients may term the cost aspect, they want to limit their services. And then when it comes to enforcement of the construction process too, the assembly do not have the capacity to do regular enforcement, because what they have to do is at each stage of the construction process, they have to approve or sign off before you can go on.
Also in the news tonight, COCOBOD has refuted claims that some licensed buying companies have not been paid since November for the supply of cocoa beans. According to the cocoa regulator, even though there has been delay in payments, it will be withdrawing some $190 million from the Bank of Ghana to settle the debts by the end of this week. Responding to questions at the Meet the Press series organized by the Ministry of Information, Head of Public Affairs at COCOBOD, Fifi Boafo, said despite the delay, it is very critical to promote local consumption of chocolate to boost the economy.
The question was about the costs of chocolate being expensive. Well, we are talking about made in Ghana chocolate. If you compare made in Ghana chocolate and chocolate from elsewhere, I do not think that made in Ghana chocolate is expensive. But what I say is that, for example, if we increase consumption, our companies will be able to process more. When they process more, cost of manufacturing or cost of processing will come down. That will force price down. So this is part of the process where we'll be able to bring the price down and we all can consume chocolate. But for example, if you look at a bottle of a cocoa powder compared to other products, I do not think that the price is that high. But of course, when we are able to increase consumption and the companies are able to process more, definitely will have an effect on the price. On the issue about delay in payment to licensed buying companies, we've answered this question and we're not expecting to have this conversation take precedence over the national activity, that's the National Chocolate Day. I would like to state that if anyone tells you that we've not paid farmers or licensed buying companies since November, that is untrue. That is not the case because COCOBOD has already drawn down about 1.1 billion, which about 92% of it, plus money sourced from Bank of Ghana, have been used to pay licensed buying companies. We admit there's been some delay, and the expectation is that this very week we'll draw now the remaining $190 million, which we'll use to service the remaining amount of money we are supposed to pay to licensed buying companies. But that does not mean that because there's a delay, we cannot continue to promote the consumption of chocolates locally and also boost our economy.
Well, turning next to a story that should really concern you, an ongoing strike by importers and transporters of tomatoes has caused a shortage of the vegetable at some markets in the Ashanti region. The importers embarked on the industrial action, protesting violent highway robbery attacks on the Kumasi-Bolgatanga, Burkina Faso route. Now, access to tomatoes for the retail market is becoming a tedious task for traders since all vehicles have been grounded. Here's Nanaya Ojima with this report from the Swami market.
In recent times, importers and transporters of tomatoes have come under highway attacks. Some have been killed and others maimed while traveling to neighboring Burkina Faso to import tomatoes. In the past 1 month alone, 2 people have died and 8 others injured in robbery attacks on the highway. To draw attention to their security concerns, the Tomato Importers and Transporters Association embarked on an industrial action last Friday. Emmanuel Oseitufo is leader of the group.
We are going to park our vehicles. There won't be any tomato coming from Burkina Faso to this country. It's only the military escort can save our lives. If not, we are not going.
Before the recent action, retailers were recording challenges in accessing tomatoes due to reduced importation for fear of armed robbery attacks. Tomato retailers have had to adjust their prices to make up for the price hikes.
We had to track down a vehicle from Burkina at midnight before we were able to secure some tomatoes to retail. If they go on strike, it will affect our business, but they have to do so because their lives are at risk.
We used to sell a pile at 5 cedis. Now it's going for 10 cedis, and our customers are not buying because it's expensive. They are getting rotten.
60 and 50.
If they go on strike, we will go hungry, but they can't risk their lives. Their wives and children will not allow them to travel on the route and die.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, joining me to discuss this is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Carraway. Thanks for your time tonight. And I can't believe we are going to have a conversation about the fact that importers of tomatoes have gone on a strike, and we anticipate a shortage here in Ghana where we can grow tomatoes. How does it come to you?
Well, let me say good evening to you and your team there. And it is very, very disturbing that we have to go through this experience when in actual fact it's not an issue for us to be going through. When it comes to tomato production, Ghana is better placed to produce tomatoes than Burkina Faso. The ecological zone, the climate, and the resources that we have at our disposal makes Ghana a better place to produce the tomatoes that we need to feed ourselves and possibly even export it to Burkina Faso and other countries. So the news has come as very, very disturbing and unacceptable.
I've been speaking to people. I've been trying to find out what it is about the tomatoes from Burkina Faso that, traders go there for that we don't have here in Ghana. What do you hear on your side? Because I hear it's, I don't know whether it's more nutritious or it's more healthy. I don't know. Maybe you can tell us.
Well, when it comes to tomatoes, just like any other crop or fruits, there are different varieties. We have some tomatoes that they have a lot of water. Some also have a lot of puree, in it. Some too have different shapes, and different designs. And this would meet different taste choices and so on. But the tomatoes that we are saying it comes from Burkina Faso, that tomatoes was also produced here in Navrongo, in the Upper East, and so on for many years. It's said that it can withstand a long period before getting rotten. So right. That is the type of it. And because we have almost virtually stopped producing tomatoes, particularly in the northern part of the country.
But why?
Particularly around. That has been occasioned by many years of failure to purchase the tomatoes from our producers. Many farmers have actually virtually become bankrupt, and they run out of tomato production. This year, for instance, there are many reasons why people refuse to go into tomato production. One has to do with the fact that there's no market for tomato when they produce it. The fear of not having the market not being predictable is one. The other thing is that if you take the northern part of the country, particularly Upper East, where you have the tunnel irrigation project, and then you also have the Via dam. Those dams are two major dams that farmers farm around those areas. Unfortunately, those dams are under reconstruction. The canals are broken down and they are being reconstructed. What that means is that those projects could not supply farmers with water because the canals that are the waterways that will be led to the farms are broken. And the unfortunate thing is that for about 5 to 4 years now, work has been going on in rehabilitating the canals, and it has never gotten finished. So these are the reasons why we are no more producing tomatoes.
Well, I would think that as a country would work for us, I mean, in our interest. And so if we can't produce it, why do we allow people to import it? How do we regulate it? I mean, these are questions that are coming to mind. Where do we go from here? What do we do?
You know, it's all about planning. As I said, all of us have had some little geographical knowledge, and we know where Burkina Faso is. The water situation in Burkina Faso, rain pattern situation in Burkina Faso is far worse than it is in Ghana. The vegetational, the soil nutrients and all that is far worse than in Ghana. Yet Burkina Faso is able to do that, and we cannot do that. It's also, tomato is one of the crops that are listed under the planting for food and jobs. So the question again that has to be asked is, what are we doing with the planting for food and jobs to the extent that we are not able to produce tomatoes and we have to depend on importation? Now, again, it tells us that when you depend on importation, these are the challenges you will find to your country. And again, my worry is that Ghana is the host to the African Continental Free Trade, which is hoping to harmonize trade relations within Africa, take out all trade barriers, and allow free movement of goods within the continent. Now, if we are not able to produce tomatoes, what it means is that all countries that can produce tomatoes will now produce tomatoes and dump it on our economy. The question we will ask is that, what are we doing to also access the rest of the African market? So it's not enough to host the headquarters of the African Continental Free Trade area, but what is most important is to prepare ourselves as a country to be able to access the rest of the African market, which we tout as being big in billions of dollars and so on. So it is just a question of making sure that we put in place proper structures to control production, to regulate production, and that will involve also making sure that there's market, and when people produce, they don't run at a loss to make sure that they run away from the production of tomatoes.
But certainly, if we are losing out, this is a critical matter that our government should look at. I wish we could play you a report from the Northeast region where there are vegetable farmers who are actually right now asking for support so they can increase yield. And so there is potential for us to develop crop production here in Ghana, but it appears the farmers are not getting the necessary support. A final one, maybe just in a minute. How is GAWU taking this up in terms of engagement with the government?
You know, we have been there the last 3 weeks. I was in the northern part of the country, the northeastern region, and all those areas to see things for ourselves. You know, again, the thing has to do with, we have virtually left these people to fend for themselves. Yes, if it is to produce for themselves, there's no problem. But when they have to produce for themselves and the rest of the country, and possibly be able to export, then of course we cannot leave this to them. So the question again we'll ask is, what are the authorities doing? What is the Minister of Agriculture doing under the Planting for Food and Jobs? How are they supporting them with water? How are they supporting them with credit? And then market and other inputs. You can see that they are fending for themselves. So again, it requires that we hold those authorities to indeed come now and account to us how they are seeking to restructure agriculture under the Planting for Food and Jobs, and for our own good and for the good of export.
All right. Thank you so much, Edward Carraweth, General Secretary of GAW. We appreciate your time with us tonight. So as we talk about a shortage of tomatoes because of the strike by these importers and transporters, are we feeling the trickle here in the capital, Accra, yet as a result of the strike? You saw the situation there in Kumasi and the fears. My colleague Nicholas Brown joins me from one of the main markets here in the Greater Accra region, that is the Medina market. He has been interacting with some tomato traders over there. And so, Nicholas, are they aware of this strike? How are they reacting to it?
Great, Daryl, as has already been established, the strike by the importers of the prices of tomatoes has been directly affected by the strike of the importers of tomatoes. So we are here at the Medina market to get the reaction of these importers and also traders of tomatoes. I have here with me Hajia, who directly imports from Burkina Faso. Hajia, you are welcome to Joy News. How has this particular strike now importers of tomatoes or marco no sena affect mo?
Say no and I'm say oye kwa no makwaji esika nti ama ya jisika no kura na yetimi jilo na kwaye ka ibagodo no maji sika na free ensem nti na ama ye say ye ni abre ye hia ban kura se ngwa meboa ye fi se na santos ho ba ye den wo Ghana ha isa sa kwa na kwadu border so wa ni ya jisika na konfa jisika wo ensem wa saba Ghana te say na aye den pa ma ye aye ka ye hia government kura se ngwa meboa ye o me nipa na ye ne nkọ ana wamwa ye say betimi akọ ni akọfantos ndi aba Ghana ha nti ama se na ama Ghana ntos no wa den
nti no Sisia no well, she's basically saying that they are calling on government to help them with the situation of robberies on the road when they go into import tomatoes. So basically talking about tightening security, calling on government to tighten security because this is really affecting them. Now, Hajia, catch me, tomatoes, Sena strike affect prices no ama prices no akosro ananse sena wono sana etie
ya be say no price no ekosro fi say nyakwa na ekọ na say boni bia nkan a bibia price na wo fam say so yentimi me enyakwa ankwa na ekwaje usika nti ema yesuro say ebekọ sai Burkina Faso no ti ama ntos no ho ayeden wo Ghana ha nti wo mo kakra na be di Ghana ha na ne bo ayeden.
So she's basically saying that due to the threat or the attacks, the alleged attacks by robbers on the road, the prices of tomatoes have shot up, and that is really, really affecting their business. Now, let me come here and talk to another trader who also deals in tomatoes, who also deals in tomatoes. Mommy, ono menkasa, also sa situation no sa na etie.
Yes, mama na ni driver for no makokunwo omo ba on to kunwo pepe omo jesika no masa ba on to nti ama yesoro driver so nko usman ba so nko tema so antos ni ehu ye din wa ha
All right, Nicholas Brown there reporting for us at the Medina market. So the traders essentially re-echoing what we've been talking about. And so if you're planning to go to the market this weekend, you have to rework your budget because the price of tomatoes definitely are going up. That's it for Business Live tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Darryl Kwao. We're back same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching.